So, welcome back. We're gonna do something a little bit different today for our Minecraft episode. We left off yesterday with, yesterday, a couple days ago, whenever this releases, talking about the fact that our island is flat and pretty and cute, but there's not really a whole lot of interest going on. So we're gonna recreate the Plastic Beech album because it seems like a cool spawn area. So while we do this flyover and I start to clear out some of the trees and everything like that, yeah, this is the end. This is the end of our flat little normal beach. So today's build episode is gonna be, I'm not gonna lie, pretty long. It mostly done in creative. I know last time I said, well, you know, now that I have all these tools, maybe I'll use creative less. not for this project. No. I suppose you could pay me, but I mean, like a lot to do it in survival. And that, never mind the fact that I gotta do like flying, like fly over and get at all sorts of weird angles, which we can do with the hovercraft now that we've got immersive aviation. Like, there are tools to do it, but they weren't particularly good. So anyway, we're just cleaning up the island at this point. And I'm managing to get all of these cool aerial views and all of that through Replay Mod. So it's only taken me this long to cotton on. For you guys, I'm sure it's been like 2 months. For me, it's been like a week. Because I just get all these episodes done in bulk and then, you know, just sort of upload them to the channel whenever we have a weekly slot. So I finally figured out, you know, Replay Mod is apparently the thing. So this is my first attempt. We're fixing to get into my second attempt. As you can see, I'm still trying to figure out the camera pathing and the moving. It's very similar for my Planet Zoo players. It's very similar to the camera path controls in order to make cinematics, but it's both more robust and less robust. It's a weird mixture, so there's gonna be a lot of things in here where I'm like just trying to do my best with it. So yeah, we're now that we're getting into the proper build, yeah, there's gonna be a lot of experimentation with the Replay Mod pathing. And the other way that I messed up, for those of you who want to learn how to use this, if you don't know already, apparently this is like one of the older tricks in the book, but again, I've not been present. But if you do want to learn how to use this mod, the one thing that I will mention is that I made the mistake of recording this in a 4-hour block of one singular video, because that's what I do for OBS. It makes sense, it's easy on my editor. They just plunk it into whatever program it is they use and chop out whatever doesn't need to be there. This is not like that. This needs to be like, ideally record for 30 minutes, and even though you're not done, save and quit and then let the file load and then go back in for another 30 minutes, and it just makes it way easier on your processor, and especially your RAM. I managed to max out my RAM like 3 times doing this, and the more paths and the more additions I made just did not help the situation. So, but at this point in the build, we're already getting the bones down. So the Plastic Beech Island is actually, like, structurally it's very simple. You have the island itself, which we didn't need to build, that's pre-supplied, and then you have the big mushroom-looking land thing that comes out of it. I don't know what you call that thing. But at its core, it's essentially, it's like a mushroom. You've got your central cylinder, and then off of that are these, like, big, I don't know, I'm gonna call them fronds, because I don't have a better word for it. There's lumpy hills that are not hills. They're weird looking. So that's what I'm getting laid down. There's 3 of them around, like, a central core. And right now, with this, I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to do the undersides when we're eventually ready to do that. So how am I going to shape it? What kind of depth and all that kind of stuff do I need in order to make this look reasonable? And then as we go on, I'm expanding out the bridge and trying to make this, you know, a reasonable size. And to be completely honest, I think I actually go a little bit too big. Like, it ends up being okay, but there's several points where, like, I end up pulling the shape out of proportion. So the other issue that I'm doing right now is when you look at it, after I get all of this filled in, which we're very briefly going to, there it is. We got that cleaned up. Yeah, it's gonna leave in just a second. Yeah, so once we get this all cleaned up, I'm gonna rapidly realize that what I'm building is a fidget spinner, and what I need to be building is like a 3-leaf clover. So it's gonna take me a little while to figure that out. And right now I'm just sort of messing around with the bottom, trying to figure out, like, is my tapering wrong? What's going on? And it turns out that yes, my tapering is very, very off at this point. But again, we will discover that as we go on. At this, right here, I'm just building some support structures, again, in order to get an idea of what the full 3D shape is going to be. And then after this, I believe right around here, I'm going ahead and filling these out. And we're going to start actually getting the shape pulled into something that's more reasonable for this. But I actually got really lucky with plastic beech. So I've done a Gorillas project or two before on the channel. For my Halloween episode, which you don't have to watch. You don't have to watch it, it's fine. But for that video, I ended up breaking down and rebuilding the ghost house from Gorillas' Saturn Bars video. So for those of you who don't know, that house is real. It is in Detroit. It looks exactly like that. It's abandoned, and what I discovered is that when they here we go. We're starting to turn them into palm fronds now. When they pulled that house for the music video, I don't think that they actually got rights to enter the abandoned house. And I found that out the hard way, because when I put the structure together in Planet Zoo, none of it mathed. None of it mathed, none of it worked. So you literally could not fit the interior of that house into the exterior shell. It was hysterical to discover. So I kind of expected to have similar problems with this, where like somebody has been handed a concept art and they haven't thought about it farther than what it takes to look good on an album or in the music video. And I was really pleasantly surprised to find out that actually, no, they really thought about it. They really did a 3D model and a mock-up, and they actually made this a real, like, a digital space, but a real one. And that they had actually supplied us with both sides of the island. So you get that front view that's actually on the plastic beach island, and then you actually get a few views from the back. And they're at night, but the lighting is so good that you can actually read all of the pieces that you need to read. It's not like a lot of what happens in video games where like everything gets shunted down, so you can't see anything. So yeah, as far as building from the sides and making the side profile look right, it was actually super easy to do because I had so much detail. And that will come in very important when we finally get to making the house, which I do end up recreating the house as well, but you know, we gotta get through this part first. By far, getting this shaping done, getting these palm fronds done, and making it look right, it took the longest. It's gonna take us like half the video. It takes forever. But yeah, so I got really lucky, and it just sort of turned out okay. So we get a pretty decent profile at the end. The only things I did have to change was, you'll notice that the base I'm not doing out of pink. There just were not pieces in my texture pack that were that fluorescent pink, and moreover, I really didn't want that color to be what the island was made out of. Like, I still want us to have like a farm, and I want us to have trees, and having fluorescent plastic pink goo everywhere, it just did not fit the vibe. So I ended up deciding that we're going to do this at a deep slate. So that was like the big major change that I ended up having to do. Yeah, so everything else just really worked out. So you've probably noticed, especially up on this tier, you probably just saw me do it, where I just sort of splat down a whole bunch of like cylinders. So I am not using World Edit. I'm actually using Create. So Create is such a massive mod, and I like doing this project. I learned so much. It's got a lot of tools in there for survival in order for you to build machines and all that kind of stuff, but it turns out Create actually has a lot of creative mode tools too that can effectively completely replace World Edit. Like, you don't actually need to install the two side by side, you can just use Create. So one of them is, there's a creative gun in there that basically allows you to plant down not just cylinders, but you can do like squares and spheres and all that kind of stuff. And you can select the material, you vary it a little bit. You can select all of your sizes, and it's all in one tool. So that came in absolutely clutch for this. So I'm gonna go ahead and fill out all of the edges here, so that way I have my depths right for the dirt part. But then after this, I'm going to start spamming down all of those cylinders in order to get my layers of depth. And so that's how I'm doing that, and it's also how I ended up building the windmill that we did a couple of episodes ago. Off screen, unfortunately, I didn't have this, so I didn't know how to make that interesting to watch. Thankfully, this changes a lot now. So that is, that's one of the major tools that I end up using. But the other thing you probably noticed is that this island is very squat. It's very top heavy and it's squished. So when you actually look at the profile, and there's me using that cylinder tool again to fill out the layers, but if you can catch any of the like side profiles, like you can tell that this is a very short area, and we're gonna be running into issues of clearance. So there is actually a tool that I'm gonna end up using for that, called the schematic tool or the blueprint tool. And it's available, like in the mod pack as a survival tool, like anybody can use it. And so originally when I saw people doing this in YouTube videos, I was like, that must be a third extra mod that somebody has layered on top of this. So I'm not gonna try it. And then I found out that it was just part of base Create. You can literally like select chunks and turn them into savable blueprint files that are saved on your hard drive, like in the files for Minecraft. And then you can save and upload and do all that kind of stuff. So that was really awesome to learn as well. Which really changes a lot of things, because what it means now is that essentially I can build test like machines and stuff like that in creative mode, and then I can translate them into our survival mode world, which is super cool. I'm pretty sure that's going to save us a lot of time, especially when we get into things like logistics. Logistics is always like the core of any technical mod is its capacity to do inventory management and logistics. That's what makes a tech mod. At least for me, at least for all the metrics that I've ever seen out of them. So when we finally do get to a point where that's critical in this world, like, I think that's really where we're gonna see that blueprint tool shine. So here you can see that I'm starting to get these kind of blobby frond things in, and we're doing a little bit of tapering. So this is another weird place where like things did not do what I thought that they did. There was a lot of like having to double check my source material and what exactly we were doing. And I ended up looking up a whole bunch of other people's plastic beach builds for Minecraft. And one of the things that I noticed is that this mushroom plastic thing, whatever it is, actually sticks into the ground like it's been stuck there like a golf tee or something. So that was an interesting discovery. It's one of the reasons why I ended up cleaning up all of the stuff that the tapering that I had done around the base originally. And that doesn't really come back. I do a little bit to make sure that it does taper into the ground, but for the most part it's just whatever. And then right now I'm just finishing up the shaping on all of these. So, anyway, while that happens, since we have a little bit of time, there are some things that I do want to to think about as far as like what our future plans are. So by the time that this build is done, I've already like finished the house, I finished the island as far as like what I want it to look like for now. I'm still trying to stick in creative mode to what we can reasonably make. But this does bring up the fact that, you know, after this we're essentially going to have 3 different houses. So the windmill, as I've stated before, I really want that to be our create factory. And normally your factory and your house would be one and the same because it's easier in Minecraft to just live where you work. I'm not gonna end up probably doing that specifically, just because of my computer's limitations. So things like my processor, which during this whole business, I actually ended up Googling how old my processor is. It's from 2012, guys. I'm doing this on a 2012 processor. I had no idea. It might have been from like 2014, maybe, like at the end of production, but yeah, so the next thing that's gonna go, in order to truly turn my computer into a ship of Theseus, is we're gonna upgrade that processor. Yeah, I've got plenty of RAM, got plenty of storage, and so those are going to be like the next things. But for now, because of the limitations of my computer, that windmill is probably going to end up being our factory floor, and then we will probably end up using... There's a way to make small trains, so I think that we will end up making small logistical trains and use another layer of a nether portal network. So right now the way that we're using the portal network is that it's very standard vanilla Minecraft, you know. We have normal railways that are going back and forth. This whole business that I'm doing right here, this is actually setting up for me to grab the schematic blueprint, so that's fixing to happen. Right now I'm just trimming these palm fronds because they're way too big and way out of proportion. So I'm gonna shape those back down and make them look good. And then after that we will end up cutting and pasting. So there'll be a long period of time where like there's nothing on screen. That's what's going on there. But yeah, so right now, because our portal network is very much like something that you would use in vanilla Minecraft, it's basically a lot of walking or it's rail carts. And I think what we'll end up doing is we'll end up converting it to be a dual system. So we'll have our train logistics, which will be on a completely different set of paths to our walking space. So if I just need to run somewhere, then I can just run somewhere. And if I happen to catch a train, then I happen to catch a train. But those will be reserved for moving items and moving liquids and all that kind of stuff. And then for right now, unfortunately, I don't have a tour of the house at the very end of this. I wanted to get one. But right now, the house is not very well fleshed out. And looking around at the space, it makes a lot more sense as like a home or a resort, or basically just a place to like live while you're at spawn. So it's not going to end up being our primary workspace either. So we're going to end up living out of the underwater bunker for a little while more, at least until we can get the shop running. Right here I'm just using TNT. I didn't realize that create gun that I was using to make all those circles could clear everything out. I will discover that in a minute, but for right now I'm playing with TNT to clear this out, so that way when I put the blueprint in, I actually have room. Because it does not cut and paste, it copies and pastes. So, yeah, we're functionally not going to be seeing too many changes as far as Minecraft lifestyle goes for right now. And the next thing that I want to do is I really do want to give that windmill some more love, because now that spawn actually looks decent, I feel comfortable, like, expanding how we need to expand and doing all the things down here at our underwater workshop that we're eventually going to translate over to the windmill workshop. After that, I will probably... I'm thinking right now of expanding it into, there's like underwater hotels in like Japan and Dubai and things like that, and while a lot of them look really uncomfortable and kind of weird, I think that we can make a cozy one in Minecraft. So that might end up being its ultimate destination, but we have a long time before that happens. So right now, I ended up clearing out all of our cacti and our reeds, just so that way I could copy and paste it without us needing to like clean stuff off any of the debris. Which ended up backfiring a little bit. I really needed to have kept those anchor blocks that I used in order to create the blueprint in the first place didn't end up doing that, and so the whole island is just a little bit off from where it started, but I think it looks okay. But yeah, so I ended up clearing all those out, and I put them in our storage box. We haven't lost anything. Like, our trip to the desert wasn't for nothing. So that's gonna be just fine. And then after that, we will go ahead and get everything replanted, and we'll go from there. So the next thing, of course, is the rest of the decorations, because I have this structure now built. You're seeing me build it, and you can see that I've expanded it off the ground, so we have way more space to work with, an actual, like, ground footprint. We're not, like, bumping our heads on the ceiling or anything. So I'm going to use a lot of the space that we have on this island to go ahead and decorate out. But what we're not going to do is we're not going to replicate the plastic beach cover one for one. So I'm not building any weird shipping containers. The lighthouse doesn't exist. And the trees just don't exist in Minecraft. There's palm trees, which it's really weird to me that Minecraft doesn't have palm trees. Like, that feels like a weird oversight to have. So we will maybe end up custom building some palm trees, but besides that, there's also... Okay, maybe it's just me, but when you look at the album cover, if you look at the trees, there's the colorful droopy ones, and they look exactly like the trees in Dr. Seuss. The one with the Sneeds and the Onceler, and I only remember the Sneeds because it's just such a bizarre name. It's like his environmentalism, like, story for kids. You'll know the one I'm talking about, right? Right? Okay, yeah, no, that one. So they look like that, so I'm pretty sure it's a reference to it because Plastic Beach is supposed to be like the debris and the throwaway, right? That's the whole idea, you know? But there's just no way to recreate those, so we're not even gonna bother. So while the structures are all gonna be here and the house is gonna be here, and yeah, we'll add the palm trees and all that, which we're now building the house. I know it's hard for you to see right now, but I'm building the ground floor entrance so you can actually get up this hill. But yeah, so we're gonna do our own thing as far as decorating goes. We're not actually gonna try and recreate that. So that is what we're currently looking to do. From here on out, it's really clear sailing. I ended up not doing a whole lot with the camera work through here, just sort of focusing on, like, the key area interests, because at this point, my computer was having a fit. Like, could not even with my BS. So we ended up, I end up just, like, anchoring into a handful of few shots, so things are going to be a little bit less visually interesting through here, but maybe not. Maybe you'll enjoy me building the house. Like I said, don't record these in 4-hour bouts unless you have the equipment to do so. But yeah, so everything from here is really smooth sailing. So we are starting with the front of the island. And by front, I mean this is what's actually on the cover of the Plastic Beach album. Like, we're using that as our stock footage, not the reverse side. So this little outset, I end up bringing it down, but a lot like the weird mushroom island below it, it's effectively a whole bunch of leaves sticking out of a center column, except that there are a whole bunch of additional center columns that are sort of built out in order to give these sort of leaf-shaped rooms their support, which is really cool. So, once I get sort of this whole area nailed down, I start to build out these weird rings. And, okay, if somebody who is more well-versed in stupid rich people architecture knows what is happening here, please tell me. Because these weird sticking out concentric rings appear to serve absolutely no purpose whatsoever, and I'm not convinced that they have structural support. So either this is something that the artist just added because it was visually cool, or they're basing it off of a real house that I don't know about. In which case, what are these? Why are these? And I mean, like, you can ask that about the entire building, and valid, but, like, these specifically, these especially. What is happening here? So yeah, we've got the basics of the main front-facing stuff, so we're just gonna zoom around over here so that way we can start to build one of the main living areas. So this was actually a lot of fun to build. This first part ended up being really, really quick and easy to build. It's sort of just, again, it's all tacked onto a center column. So as long as I have enough space to be able to do things like put a room and to be able to walk around and put lights and things like that, it's roughly what I needed it to be. And I got really lucky when I built that center column because I did not measure, I did not scale, I just threw down a height and hoped, and it turned out perfect. The only thing I will say is that for as big as the island underneath it is, the house is weirdly small and cramped, and I don't think it should have been. So again, this is one of the reasons why I'm not going to end up probably moving into this house. It's very pretty, and I do want to decorate it, you know, when we can finally make bookshelves and chairs and all that kind of stuff. Like, I absolutely do want to implement it, but it's not going to be a living quarters for us. So this whole business through here, again, I ended up, like, just sort of eyeballing it off of the picture, and it turned out pretty well. It wasn't terribly difficult to do. I just staircased everything using slabs to try and get these weird curves that it's got. But by the time that I get to doing the second one around the back, things slow way down, because effectively I was allowed to just free rein the whole business up until now, and now I have to copy it. So that's going to be a little bit weird. The other issue that I ended up running into is that, well, everything kind of sort of mostly lines up with, like, where things should align with the palms underneath. The building itself ends up, like, turning in some weird ways. Part of this was because I needed to find that little niche, that little corner, in order to set that lower building into. So everything is sort of focal pointed around that building, so that way I can get all of the angles. But once you get around to the back, you can really see that everything gets kind of skewy. And it's fine. Again, like, I got lucky with the aerial shots. Or not the aerial shots. I got lucky with the side views. There are no aerial shots of plastic beech that I could find. And the only thing that I vaguely remember being, like, anything like that is actually a fan recreation of a scrapped music video for Plastic Beech. And I wasn't gonna rely on that. It just didn't make sense, and I didn't really want to find it. I just wanted to build. So yeah, just sort of did my best with it. So everything through here is honestly pretty clear sailing. Like I said, we already talked about the workshop situation. We've got our plans for the train rails going forward. The only thing that's really holding us back there is A, we don't have the infrastructure for it on this world. That has to get dealt with. So when we can, that will be where we end up going next. But in order to do that, I actually need to learn the system. And that's been the other holdback, is that I don't actually know how the train systems work. I don't know how the logistics work. So my hope is that I'm just gonna take a little bit of for me a break. For you, nothing will have happened, but for me a break, and go into a creative world and just build some trains and see what else Create has to offer, because there's, like, a lot of stuff going on. So right there, what I thought I was going to do is that I was going to stare down into the pit, and then you'd be able to watch me build up these interior floors. That didn't happen. So now you get this weird, awkward view. By the time we got here, I could not fix it. My computer was angry. Like, I was having to, like, pet it and tell it good boy, like it was bad. But anyway, yeah, so I am going to take some time and learn how the train system works for my own stuff, to just see if we can, like how is that going to translate into our world? How do we build trains? Because that's another thing. Like, I love like, physically designing and constructing all of these different infrastructure things, and, like, you know, I love to build myself a train. I love to build a plane. I love to build an airship. So that was kind of the whole goal with this mod pack. This is a case where, like I said, that things don't necessarily line up. This pool is not supposed to just hang out above space. It's supposed to be, like, partially sat on a front and then hang above space. Couldn't get that to work. Doesn't matter. But yeah, so that's gonna be my next project, but you won't see any of it. You'll just see when we start to actually build the trains that I know what I'm doing. So, a little bit of research in the background. But I think at this point we are finally starting to reach the end. I've got another 2 minutes, so we're gonna go ahead and do our partial circle shot over to the front. Like I said, there's no landscaping here, and there was one thing I missed. There is a set of concentric paddle things made out of glass that stick out of, as you look at the cover art picture, that stick out of the right side of the building as you look at it. I completely forgot those. So I'm going to end up adding those in post. You're not going to see it, you don't need to, but quite frankly I could not have stuffed more into this if I wanted to. So yeah, that is our new plastic beach base. Does it look good? Honestly, it looks better in person. It's doing its best, and I think that we can turn it into something. Like, I think the bones are here, but it needs a little bit extra work. And then we'll see where it ends up taking us. I think it'll make a lot more sense when we actually have trees on the island, and underneath it, like on the main base, and, you know, when we start to get more infrastructure built up and have more stuff around it, it will start to make more sense. But that's basically the whole build. So, thank you very much for joining me. This has been my coffee break. Next week, we'll be back in Minecraft. I don't know what we're gonna do. I guess we'll find out when we get there. There's no point in planning. Yeah. So anyway, good luck with your Monday. I'll see you soon, and happy building.